Hi, this is Paul, City Sailing. I want to talk to you about waves. This is important for day skipper and yachtmaster, or if you're just interested in waves or the offshore safety course. So let's look a little bit about waves and the shape of waves. The wavelength is from the crest to the crest. The crest is the top of the wave, bottom of the wave is the trough, and the height of the wave is from the trough to the crest. So the waves will go in a motion, and the motion will be affected as we get deeper and deeper and deeper. So these will go in circular circles, getting smaller and smaller and smaller to the bottom. It's quite important to know because when we look at beaches at low tide, we see small ripples at the bottom. So as the wave comes towards the beach, these ripples are coming from the bottom of these circles to form the ripples. So the swell. So the direction of the swell shows the direction of bad weather. So if there's been bad weather, that swell will continue from the direction of the bad weather. So the bigger the swell, the stronger the wind. So a swell coming could be a sign of bad weather. So factors that influence the sea state. So the effect of the wind on waves. There are 4 factors influencing the effect of the wind on the waves. The first one is how long has the wind been blowing from the same direction? Is the wind increasing in strength or subsiding or decreasing? How far have the waves travelled? And that's called the fetch. A long distance will allow the waves to reach its maximum height. So if we look at the fetch, the further the waves travel, the bigger the waves. So if you've got a full sake gale here coming off the cliff, so it's an offshore wind, at 50 miles, the wave height will be 3 meters, at 100 miles, 3.5. So the fetch is the distance the wind has blown on the water to produce the waves. So the bigger the fetch, the larger the waves. So this graph here shows the fetch in different wind strengths, 20, 40, 60. So the significant wave height and the distance the waves have travelled. So the further they've travelled, the higher the wave height. So we can look at the distance they've travelled against the wind, and it will show you the wave height. And obviously the further it's blown it, the bigger the fetch, the higher the wave height. So the waves in the Southern Ocean, but they can reach over 100 feet, 30 meters, because the fetch is extremely long, because there's nothing to stop the waves on the Southern Ocean. So if we look at the Southern Ocean, these waves blowing along here, there's only Cape Horn that's stopping it, and between this gap below Cape Horn and Antarctica, there is nothing stopping the waves. So the fetch is almost infinite. So tidal stream. Tidal stream does affect the waves, and we've learnt that in Day Skipper. So wind with tide or wind against tide. So wind against tide. So a wind over tide of 2 to 3 knots may increase the height of the waves by 100%. If there's restriction in the flow, it can increase the waves by about 200%. So wind against tide, it can double the size of the waves. So if you're sailing in an area such as the Solent, it may be in the morning the wind and tide are together and it's a relatively flat sea, and then nothing else changes, the wind is the same speed and direction, tide changes and waves form. It's known locally as the Solent chop, and that is because the wind is going against the tide. So here we show a diagram of wind against tide, and you can see the waves are picking up, and this is affected by the tide, and when the tide changes it will flatten it out. Breaking waves. So a breaking wave equal to the beam of the boat can capsize it. I'll say that again. So if we've got a wave this height, which is the same as the beam of the boat, that's enough to capsize the boat. So when the wind falls 5 and above, beam on can capsize a 10-meter boat. So it's really important that we don't present the side of the boat onto the wave. So cause of breaking waves. Well, the first one, wind against tide, particularly combined with some form of constriction, narrowing channel, shallowing depth, or a headland. So the waves affect by the land, so we've got speeding up through gaps, speeding up over a headland, water speeding up over shallows, so as it goes over the shallows it will accelerate, and eddies going round in a bay. So this is how the waves are affected by the land. Water speeds up through the gaps, so it speeds up as it goes through the gaps. Waves affected by the land, so we've got wind against tide, and we've got the tide increasing over shallowing areas, causing the waves to increase. And if you look on the chart, it will look like have the symbol for overfalls, and in these areas are overfalls. So one example will be off St Catherine's Point on the southern tip of the Isle of Wight. Shallow water. Waves affected by the land. So waves in shallow water. So as the wave gets shallower and shallower, the earlier diagram had the circles. Circles to support the shape of the wave. As it gets shallower, these circles will get broken and it won't be able to support the wave, and the wave will break. So this can happen on the land, or it can happen where the water's getting shallower. One example of that is the Irish Sea, which is about 20 meters deep. When it blows above a force 8-9, the waves get so big it's not supported and the waves start breaking randomly around the Irish Sea. So here we have the circles I talked about on the waves. As we get closer, they get cut off, shortens the wavelength, and the wave collapses, and what we see is the surf and the breakers on the beach. So if the waves are going across the beach, as it shallows near the beach, the waves will bend round with the friction on the beach. And those who've done geography will know that this will move the beach along, called longshore drift, as the wave goes in one direction, out in the other direction, and it will move the beach along, such as Chesil Beach near Portland. So wind along the beach, so close to cliffs or breakwaters with an onshore wind. So if we've got a breakwater or a cliff, the waves will go straight into that vertical surface and bounce back out again. So if you've got somewhere like Brighton Marina, it's nearly always choppy outside the marina because the waves are coming onto the wall and bouncing back again, and they'll produce a chop not unlike the ones on this picture. So if we've got the wind coming, the waves in a straight line, and the waves will bend round the island, and in the back of the island or the lee of the islands, they'll bounce into each other and they'll produce the standing up waves, similar to the waves that we saw bouncing back off the cliff or the breakwater. So changing the direction of the land, so as the waves go in this way, it will move round the land. By the friction of the land will move the waves around the coast. And we'll see how the waves are changing here because of the topography of the land. And here's a really good satellite picture showing the waves coming along, bending around the land, and here meeting this side of the island. So we may be forgiven to think that if we go in the lee or behind the shelter of an island, that we'll get a lot of shelter. Well, you will really close in, but a little bit further out, you get these waves bouncing on each other, and it will be quite lumpy. So where the chart warns of overfalls or rips, we'll get standing waves. And this is uneven seabed, so it goes across the seabed, uneven seabed, and it will chop the waves up. And we'll get like this. So we can get the waves chopping up, standing waves, and we can get this around the coast of the UK. I think this is the southwest England. We can get them off the top of Anglesey, Menai Straits, Scotland, famous one, the Corryvreckan, where we get standing waves. Whirlpool, most famous one is in the Gulf of Corryvreckan, in the west coast of Scotland, where on spring tides you will get quite large whirlpools, and if you get wind against tide, it gets untenable to go through that passage. If the areas are mentioned as dangerous in the almanac, then the Admiralty considers them dangerous for well-found ships, because the almanac is written for ships and not small vessels like the ones that we're going to be sailing along. So if it says dangerous for ships, we need to keep away from those areas.